All right, we're working with our Prusa i3 MK8 by HicTop. And I can't, that'd be kind of cool if you could see it, but I can't see it. Man, we just struggled with this thing. So I don't know if we're just two newbies, too much of a newbie, but we finally, as you can see, we got a really nice print going now. So we hit a lot of problems. So I'd like, hopefully this helps somebody else out, so you don't give up your life the way we did for such a long time. So first big problem was flatness. This plate was really warped from the factory. We had high points and low points all over the place. So we wrote to them. They seemed interested, but so far we didn't get anything, answers from them, or a flat plate, or if the other plates are flat. We did read a little bit online that other people just accept the flat plates, but we were just getting horrible print where it would start and then it would fade away because it would get too close, and then it would separate, so it wouldn't actually adhere to the bed. So this part we're printing is about 9.5 inches by 2 inches, I think, 1.5 inches, something like that. So all we did is we just fixed this part of our plate right now to get it to work. And we bought ourselves a Starlet offline. I think it was like 12, maybe 20 bucks or something like that. It's a milled, machined straight edge. Let me get back here a little bit. And is that? We tried doing it with a string, but it was so hard, to see the high points and low points. But you get this straight edge, it's so easy. So we just put it on top of the plate. We put a flashlight behind it, and you could see the heights. And then the second thing we bought that is very useful is a feeler gauge. It goes down into, this one that we used was 0.06. And then we could actually get underneath it and feel what the heights were. And to bend it, all we could think of is we got little blocks from Home Depot that you can get granite samples. And imagine you get wood ones too. And we just, blocked it up, do a piece of wood or something. We put the plate up on top of it and then just pushed down with our hand and just, trued it up the best we could. And so far, because before we were getting all these little strings, we get all kinds of problems with it, or it just wasn't, the head was digging in to the printed material, and then it was skipping and separating because it wasn't squishing it to the plate enough. So right now we've got that going. And then another problem we had was bearings. We noticed when we were pushing the plate back and forth, the bearings were making all kinds of noise. So right now, to fix that, we just got some white lithium grease. We took the bearings off. We could put our thumb underneath the bearing, the linear bearing, and we filled it up with the lithium grease, and then took the rod and kind of just squished it in there, and we kind of bounced it in and out like this to pulse the lithium grease into the bearing. And now it runs really smooth. What other problems did we have? We had many. We do have trouble with this yet. We have to figure something out there. It doesn't seem to be affecting anything, but the belt rides over to the right too much. But it seems fine. Oh, another thing too is we noticed that there's a little shift in the build, the plate here. So this end would go up and down just a small amount. But just moving this up and down changed our nozzle height. And it was quite a bit. So I could ruin the print by taking this out and just pushing it down, and the print will start getting goofy again. Let's see. There's some other things. We did notice too, it's better if you tighten your screws all the way down, compress the springs all the way and then bring it up. Because if you get the spring too loose, it's just very wobbly. And even the plate has a lot of wobble in it. So, it's a cheap printer, so you can't expect too much, I guess. But hopefully that solves some problems for you guys. Oh, wait, this is a big one now. Everything we saw, everybody's like, oh, just put a business card underneath or a little piece of paper, and we could not get a print for anything that would look good, on the start. Eventually, after it would get all stringy and cut itself down, we'd end up with something. These are all our mistakes here. So we'd end up with something that looked kind of good. But that was a big problem that we solved just by using the micrometer. So what we figured, a little setting, we're printing at 0.2 height. So in our mind, we were thinking that the nozzle would have to be 0.2 above the surface to be able to get that. So we noticed two things. If you auto home it and then set the gap at 0.2 underneath it, and this isn't 0.2, this is 0.06 millimeter, 0.63 millimeter. But we slid it underneath there and set it to 0.2, actually 0.23, because that's all we had on this. And when we set it for 0.023 millimeter at the auto home, we went to print, and it would do that thing where it would put the print down, but when the head moved, it just dragged the string along with it. It was never adhered. So we figured out is that, at least on ours, I don't know if it's something in the G code, but when we set ours for, a height at auto and then go to print, if we check it after it started printing, the height changed. It went a lot higher. So what we had to do is actually set ours to 0.063 millimeters at auto home, and then that would give us 0.2. Actually, it's pretty close. It would give us 0.2 when we went into print mode. And like I said, my feeler gauge is 0.023 millimeters. No, I'm sorry, 0.23 millimeter. And we're printing at 0.2 height. In the setup on Cura, we changed the setting to 0.2 for the height, and it prints a little faster. We might go to 0.1 to give us a better print, but it seems to be pretty nice. But so the plan was that the 0.23 was snug when we pushed it underneath there. So we're assuming that gave us 0.2 when we were done. Because if we did 0.2 and it was sloppy, that concept. And I said, I have no idea how these other people are getting prints out of theirs using business cards, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, is a business card 0.2? A business card compresses, so you could be all over the place with the size. So I highly suggest going on Amazon or somebody and just purchase not 0.2, but a feeler kit, and it'd be nice. And here's our second layer, and this is by far the best layer. You can look at here. I don't know if you can see it, like all the different heights. Let's see if we got one here. These were prints, and you could kind of wish you had a better camera here. You got a light down on this here. Does that do it? I'm moving you all over, getting you seasick. Okay, you can see how that height looked. That was our print on that one. And if you look at the bottoms of some of these, this one isn't too bad. That's pretty smooth. But we were getting all kinds of ugly bottoms, you can see here. And as it printed, we'd have strings all over the place, and the head was getting all messed up and dragging pieces. And by far, this is actually beautiful. I'm very happy with it. At first I was kind of upset about the printer. I thought I was here at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, yeah, we screwed up. We should have bought something else. But it's a kit, and it's one of the things you just got to keep struggling until you figure it out. And man, I searched the internet. I don't know if I'm a bad searcher, but I couldn't find anybody that would point this stuff out that made sense to me. There were little tidbits here and there, and my son found a couple things, but in a nutshell, if you kind of do all these things, and you have the same problems that we had, this should solve your problems. There was one more thing too. When we were building, we were doing Loctite on ours, for all our bearings and everything. And the part that holds the, see down there, the part that holds the belt to the plate, after probably about 10 prints, ours completely came loose. And it wasn't that, it was just making lots of noise. Like right now, you'd be hearing like a clink, 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 clink. And it wasn't that the bolts came loose necessarily. I mean, they did loosen a little bit, but the plate that holds, the little, printed piece that holds the belt, it had just a tiny bit of play because the holes were bigger than the bolts. and it would just shift back and forth a little bit, and it was giving us like a little zigzag print. And actually, we were getting the zigzag print from the bearings too, because when we disengaged the stepper motors, we could slide this thing back and forth, and we could see that it was rough. We could feel it, and we found that the bearings, and that's something you could see online, the bearings are kind of crummy. They got a lot of play in them. But again, the lithium grease took care of that for us. So back to the belt holder. The belt holder had that little bit of play because the bolts. So what we did when we put it back together, we put some crazy glue. We put 4 dots of crazy glue on the plate and then bolted it down with lock washers. And this way, even if there's a little shift in there, you know, hopefully the crazy glue keeps that contact and it can't slide anymore. Besides that, that's everything I could think of that really caused us problems. I'm sure you probably know about the ABS juice, but if you just stick acetone inside a jar, throw your scraps that you will have inside there, it'll make a nice juice. Get a little brush, just put it down on your surface real nice, and put a coat on. Put the coat on when it's cold, otherwise you'll get crummy stuff like that. It'll be, you know, be more smooth like that if you do it cold. The plate cold. It's kind of hard actually to videotape something and keep saying the right words. So if I'm rambling, I'm sorry. Besides that, I don't know what else to tell you. It was actually a long road for us, so hopefully this saves you guys a lot of time. And happy printing.